Good morning. Welcome to Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole, where we are rising in faith and thriving in purpose. Today, I am joined by special guest Edward Griffin. He is a powerhouse marketer and serial entrepreneur with 20 plus years of turning ideas into impact. He is the founder of E. Griffin Enterprises and the publicity firm where brands get next level marketing, branding, and web magic. Currently serving as the EVP and CMO of Steezy and the CMO for Brands by Rick Ross, Edward drives culture, growth, and strategy on a global scale. His career highlights include leading with Allen Iverson's organization, iHeartRadio, and The Source. A proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, Edward lives by the beliefs that positive thinking turns mindset into opportunity. Welcome, Edward.
Thank you so much for having me, Jamie. Dr. Simpson. So I haven't talked to you since, but
Yes,
congratulations.
I
Proud of
know, right?
you. Super proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so proud of you, right? So I'm reading your bio and I was like, dang, I remember we both used to work at the mall in Racine.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's
You know,
actually how we met.
yeah, there's so many things and I don't like to talk about myself a lot. So, when I send over my bio, I'm like, let me take out some of this stuff. It's too much. And then some stuff I just don't want to share because I just feel like
Okay.
people would be like, oh, that's too much. Right. So I just kind of,
It's not too much if
leave it
it's
where it
fact.
is. It is. It's true.
It's
That's true.
not too much if it's facts.
It's true.
And so that's the other thing is, I've had a similar conversation with one of my cousins, and I'm like, well, cuz if God is blessing you, God is blessing you, right? Like give him his glory. And I get what you're saying.
For
You don't want to
sure.
come across as you're bragging and you want to stay humble, but at the end of the day, he's blessed you. And it's
Mm-hmm.
different if it's a fact, right? And you work hard, it's earned. So it's not,
Definitely.
you know what I
For
mean? But
sure.
I get it. I get it.
Super excited to be
So
here though.
today we're gonna be and I'm so happy to have you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, today we're going to be talking about winning the war within, building a mindset that lasts. This episode is for anyone who has felt stuck in cycles of starting over, doubting themselves, or just silently battling with the weight of their own thoughts. Winning the war within is a call to arms, not against people, but against the inner negative narratives, habits, and strongholds that keep us from walking in power and most importantly, peace. So, together, we're going to unpack what it really takes to build a mindset that lasts, not just motivational fluff or quick fixes, but truth, discipline, and alignment with the mind of Christ. So, this conversation will explore how to overcome that self sabotage, staying grounded when motivation fades, and breaking patterns that keep us out of purpose. So, we're going to talk strategy, scripture, spiritual warfare, that often hides in everyday decisions. So, whether you're rebuilding after a hard season or trying to stay consistent in the one that you're in, this episode is going to help you to to fight smarter with grace, boldness, and the wisdom to rise. All right. So, Edward, when you hear winning the war within, what comes to mind from your own life?
It's when I think about that, I think that my war started super early, right? So
Okay.
when I think about growing up, I guess with anybody, right? Coming from the hood, there's those things that come from the hood. But then when you think about
Mhm.
drug abuse, alcoholism that, impacts people that you love, people from my own family, right?
Mhm.
People that I know in the neighborhood. So it's all those little things. So that war starts very early. And so for me, it's one of those things where I had to start or decide what path very early. I'm talking maybe like 6 or 7 years old, because you see
Yeah.
so much, you have to decide at a very early age, okay, well, which way is the right direction for me and what should I do? And it starts early. And then every year, God rest in peace to my dad, but rest his
Mhm.
soul, he passed, but he wasn't in my
Yes.
life. So
Yes.
I didn't have that, that person in my life. So I had to go searching for it. And so when I think about the war within, it was very early and it took a lot of um trial tribulations, but again, very early for me, I had to decide which path is for me and not knowing if it's right or wrong, right?
Mhm.
Because we're gonna make those decisions. But
Mm.
I had to decide very early what that path was gonna be for me, and so I made a ton of mistakes, but I also learned a ton, right? And so for me, the world
Absolutely.
within started super early. Yeah.
Yep, I can resonate with that with similar age too.
Mhm.
And you can get as personal or as guarded as you like, 'cause I understand, like,
Sure.
but, I do wanna hear the real, but I don't wanna push you outside of your comfort zone. But
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
what one of the hardest internal battles you've had to overcome?
Yeah, so I think let me talk to kind of where I'm at today.
Yeah.
So there was so much of my life when I thought about success, right, growing up, I didn't know what success
Mhm,
was. And so I just kind of chased it. And so I knew that I wanted to impact lives, whether that be young people, people in my family. And I looked to my younger sister to be the example, right? I have an older brother, love him to death. But he's part of the reason why I learned what not to do, right? So my older brother was in and out of prison most of his 20s, and so I didn't see him, right? And so he may be out like
mhm,
9 months of his 20s. And so as much as I love and wanted to be around him, and I find myself wanting to be the type of person he was, but he grew up gangs, sold drugs, the same thing, right? And so I found myself learning what not to do based on what I saw him doing, and not just him, but
mhm,
everyone else. But when I think about wanting to have an impact, I wanted to impact my sister first because she's right there,
mhm.
and she's right under me, and she's my best friend. So I wanted to make sure that with her, I position myself where I can be an example for her. So
Mhm.
when I look at the way life kind of is for me today, um, I chase success so often that I was like, you know what? I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be one of those people. I don't want to be like everybody else when I get older. I don't want to say, well, I wish I would have done this. Or I wish I would have done that. I didn't want that for my life. So I chased success, went to school, got educated, multiple degrees. And then you go and you accomplish these things that you want to accomplish. And then you look up and you're like, hold on a minute. COVID is here. I love kids. I have 12 nieces and nephews. I want a family of my own, right? I want all those things that are important. You can have the things, and I realized with COVID that you have these things, you have, the successes, but family is super important to me. My own family is important to me, but I think having your own is something that just can't be replaced with any other feeling. And for me, that's where I'm at today.
Yeah, that's so good. You're right, because it's like when it was like when I think back, you just showed up, like, but also we grew up on two different ends of town, right?
Yeah,
Or a
yeah.
city. And it was just like the mall, that was a place where everybody came. And I think you were working at Original Cookie?
Miss Fields at first. Then I went
Miss
to Finish
Fields,
Line.
okay, I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember those cookie place, and then I was working at Dollar Tree first, and then I went over oh, wait, I worked at 3 spots in the mall. I worked at the little
Yeah, me
CD
too.
stand, you remember the CD stand?
Yeah,
Where people still buy CDs, that's so funny,
yeah.
and a good those mix used to be bomb, but I worked in Dollar Tree first, and then I don't know if I went over to the pretzel place because my friends were working over there, and then in the CD stand before I got a job on campus. But, like, it was just like you kinda, like, showed up out of nowhere, but it was just like, even from the time of meeting you, you were out of the way, but everybody knew you, like, you were cool, you got along with people, like, never really heard your name in messiness or anything like that, right? Like, which and I'm
Mhm.
sharing that just to say that, like, I could see that you were different from the beginning when I first remember meeting you when we were in our teens, like, in high school.
Yeah.
And so just for context, if anyone watching, like growing up in Racine at the time that we did, there was a lot of crime, drugs, teenage pregnancy, it was a lot to get wrapped up in. It was easy to, yeah, just really find yourself on the broad path rather than the narrow. And so you really do have to make a conscious effort to do that. So I do commend you for choosing success and choosing to do something different and wanting to create legacy.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
definitely.
why do you think that it's easier to give up rather than to stay on course?
It's easy because nobody cares, right? Nobody cares if you give up because the thing about giving up is that you're not letting anybody down but yourself. So we may have this friend group, um, and you go to them with ideas, But a lot of times when you go to them with these ideas, you have those people in your group that'll say, "Oh, no, you can't do that," or whatever. But again, it's easy to give up because nobody cares if you give up. So you have to care enough about where you are yourself to be able to move the goal forward because it's super easy because nobody cares. And then for me, I did it would be easy for me because I don't talk about what I do. It'd be easy for me to do because nobody would have ever known, right? But I think for most people, it's easy to give up because I I have this thing called where I give talks about the fear of starting, right? And I think people have this fear of starting, and they always say, "Well, I don't know what to do," and it's easy to give up in that way because if you don't know what to do, you can't be held back. It's easy to just say, "Oh, you know what? Forget about it. I'll move on."
So when you think about overcoming, right, why do you think it's hard for some people to just give up rather than stay on course?
Yeah, I think it's easy to give up because people don't care. People don't care whether you succeed or not, right? And so I think one of the things is that if you have a friend group, you have a support system sometimes, right? But
Mhm.
other times you may have a friend group where everybody's looking at you like you can't do that or whatever it is. And I think it's just easier. And so I give talks about this thing called the power of, well, not the power, the fear of starting. Because what
Yeah.
happens is people, they want to do something, but then if they don't know how to do it or how to get it done, they're like, you know what? Forget it. I wasn't doing it anyway, right? Or I don't know how to do it anyway. So it's easy to say, you know what? I'm going to move on because I didn't know what I was doing anyway.
Yeah. So when I hear something like that, that makes me think of this quote or like this social media clip of The Rock where he was like, one day or day one.
That's a fact.
And you're absolutely right. And it's like instead of figuring out, so we identify the barriers that I don't know, and then we just stop versus let me figure it out. Let me go research. Let me go read. Now, these days, you can Google AI, all the things could tell you how to do it.
Hmm.
But for some people, the mindset, right, is a big part of that. And if you don't come from a community where you've seen people take these risks,
For sure.
you see people all the time give up. It's actually easier. It's harder to dream in some of these spaces because people will kill it or they will question it, just drown you in doubt. Why you want to do that?
Yeah, and I think one of the things when you talk about dreaming is that as we get older and we become adults, we forget the childlike dreaming that we had as a child, right? So we forget what it means to, want to be the president of the United States
It's
or
really
want to be, I don't know, a lawyer or a firefighter, whatever it is, right? Be in the
Mhm.
NBA. You forget what it's like when you start to get responsibilities. Responsibilities kill a lot of dreams.
Yeah. And a lot of times the responsibilities aren't your own as much as it is the household and like just
Absolutely.
survival. And also, I
Absolutely.
think sometimes we are shamed into get your head out of the clouds. Ain't no time for daydreaming. We gotta eat. Like there's no room for your dreams. So we're taught then you or one could really be taught that your dreams are a bad thing. Your dreams are the difference between y'all being able to eat and you know what I mean? Like so it's gotta go when we have to find that middle ground. How do I
Hmm.
survive right now and also stay true to that thing that's in me that nobody else understands but me? And no one's really talking about that from a faith perspective and the spiritual perspective, right? Like, because even that, what you're describing, that is spiritual warfare because we're trapped in what
Yep.
we're experiencing in the body versus what we know in our spirit and what God has planted in us.
Hmm.
And so even as you talk about mindset, right? Like it makes me think of the scripture. Now I should know where the scripture is, but it talks about putting on the full armor of God, right? And
Yeah.
that's really
Hmm.
like knowing your word and depending on like your family background, some people they are not even exposed to the armor. So then how are you supposed to make it through that, right?
Hmm.
There's so many good scriptures that talk about, like, mindset and renewing of the mind, and at my church, actually, we've been doing all of August a series on the renewing of the mind and taking every thought captive and
Oh, nice.
how to, yeah, it's good, but we spoiled. Our minister is also a psychologist in training, So he really blends together like faith and mental health. So like it really just feeds us. So you just grow mind, body, and spirit while you're there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk self-sabotage. What does that look like in real life?
It's one of those things I see every day. I believe that God gives us all a gift.
Yes.
He gives us all this thing, and then we know we feel it, but then we look at it and we say, you know what? That can't be what he's giving me. It can't be. I don't know how to even do that. How can he give me this? How can he give me this responsibility? And I don't even know the first thing to do. So
Mm-hmm.
self-sabotaging, and I say this all the time, there's this thing called NST, negative self-talk. We do it a lot, right? So our brains, and I always tell people this, there's you have your brain and then you have your subconscious mind, and they're a constant battle. So our subconscious mind is one of those things that it tells us it tries to protect us, but it doesn't know what's real. Doesn't know what's real or fake,
Mm-hmm.
right? It just knows of our experiences and it tries to protect us. And so it's easy for us to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that thing because um I can't do it, or I'm a failure, or this and that, right? And so when you think about self sabotaging, it's a lot of our subconscious mind that we have to rewire. It's not
Mm-hmm.
our brain. Because, so if you think about this, for example, you're walking down the street, you see a bunch of people, and you're just walking, going about your business, having a good day, and you trip, and everybody laughs at you, right? It happens all the time. And so your subconscious mind remembers that thing, and so you go down the street, that same street, on a different day. And when you get to the point where you tripped, your subconscious mind tells you, hey, you remember last time you got here and what
Mm-hmm.
happened and how it made you feel? Let's not go that way. But we have to know in our minds that we can overcome whatever that thing is. And so, but people live in the self sabotaging moment. So what happens is if you're not recognizing the negative self talk,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just continuously moving, you just have one negative thought to the next. That's it. And they just keep happening. And when they snowball, it's overwhelming and you don't even want to deal with it.
Yep.
So self sabotaging starts as something very small. It's kind of a nudge. Hey, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think you can do that because you haven't had that experience. You remember Dr. Simpson said, if you do this, whatever it is, and a lot of times our experiences um, impact how we move or the decisions that we make.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know how to deal with those things. We don't know how to say, you know what? That's a lie. That can't be true. Let me keep going. And that's why for me, kids are something that is important. Well, we have to pour into children a lot more because they don't know how to deal with those things. And so all that to say, you know, it's one of those things where self-sabotaging becomes it's a small thing that starts, but it can
Mm-hmm.
snowball into something a lot bigger. And if you don't know how to assess what you're feeling and deal with that thing, it's just going to be a nightmare.
Yeah. There's so much in there, right? Like so what you said, God gives us all gifts. Some of us have more than others. And sometimes, though, we can be frightened by how big the thing is that he's given to us, that vision, the dream, the random idea that just like drops into
Hmm.
your head. But like, and that connects to what you're saying about why it's so important to talk to children because they're pure. Right? They're more pure at that point. And just depending, because for some of us, the warfare starts earlier, right? But
Yeah.
you feel that. And so if you can speak life into kids and also help them see what the Bible, God's word says about them, that can help them to combat those negative thoughts. I'm not a failure. I'm uniquely and wonderfully made. My circumstances isn't all that God created me for because He knew me before He formed me in my mother's womb. Like all of these things to really just like pump them up, but it's not even like gassing because it's true, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love what one of my previous guests said that his grandmother would tell him when he was like afraid or nervous or unsure. It's just like all you have to do is take the next step. The rest comes from God. So this is how faith is built, right? So like God,
Hmm.
like just like that negative self-talk is a nudge. I think moving forward in our purpose is a nudge because we're being spirit led, right? So
Hmm.
God is gonna provide once you're there, and, like, there's so many different examples in the Bible where God has told people to do stuff and it didn't make sense, with the biggest one being Noah. There's no rain in sight, and he's like, "Get the wood, this kind,
Right.
cut it this way, do this, do that," and everybody was ridiculing him, just like the example you used with the tripping, but that's all internal too, right? Because then
Mhm.
they got in the head. Because if he had tripped and no one was there, he would have been fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a
Yeah.
lot of times we don't give ourselves the opportunity to replace that negative memory or to challenge it to say, I can go back. It's only a failure because that's where you left it. It's only the
Mhm.
embarrassing place because that's where you left it. That was the last thing you did. And so people think they're protecting themselves when really they're preserving the self
Mhm.
sabotage, the
For
trauma, the
sure.
embarrassment. Yeah. So what just to go in a little bit deeper, what are some of the most subtle ways that people can get in their own way?
I think it's the NST,
Mhm.
right? It's the negative self-talk. And people get in their own way because they don't know how to deal with that moment. It's
Yeah.
all and then I also believe that we don't give ourselves enough grace. So when we make those mistakes, we don't give ourselves room to recover. So
Yeah.
one of the things I think about is, and I'll ask you this, if there's a kid, let's just say 5 or 6 years old, and they're saying to themselves, "Oh, I'm so stupid," or "I'm dumb," or "I'm not smart," or "I'm not," whatever it is, what do you say to that child?
Wow. Well, what I want to know, my first thought was who told you that? Because
Yeah,
I don't think that's
yeah.
a thought that's going to organically come to a kid. Someone said something or did something that made you feel that way. Why?
Mhm.
Right,
Yeah,
and as you were saying that, I was like, "Let me write this down." That I was like, "Is it even your voice?" Right? Because these are things that we
yeah,
take in from the environment that people have said or people made you feel a way, and then it plants a seed and it becomes part of an identity, and we know as we think, that's what comes out of us, that's what we become. So if you're 5 and
yeah.
6 and you think, "I'm dumb, I'm stupid," everything you're gonna do is going to reflect that.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that question is because everything you said, right? But then when you have that kid and you say to them, "You know what? No, you're smart, you're beautiful, you're this, you're that," but we don't give ourselves that same grace. Why do
Mm,
we do that for kids, but we don't do that for ourselves? What I mean by that is when we have that negative thought
mm,
and you may have, let's just say you're in school and you bombed a test and you think you're a failure because of that. Well,
mhm,
I like to tell people, and you said it earlier, challenge every assumption. You're a failure according to who? Who told you that?
and it's one
Right?
test.
Success. That's it. That's it. But one of the things that I try to get people to understand is that the biggest thing for me is we'll be there for a child, we'll encourage them, we'll be there, we'll be supportive of them, we'll give them all these things that they need to build themselves up, but we don't give ourselves that same thing. We don't give ourselves that grace. That's super important to me. So all of those small things, and for me everything starts in your mind.
Yeah,
It's one of those things where, and we hear this all the time, your mind is a playground. But what I like to think, and I tell people this all the time, what you think, good, bad, or indifferent, shows up in your life physically, right? What you think, so shall you become.
exactly.
That's it. Right. And it's one of those things where when you realize that what you think shows up in your life physically, you're really careful about what you think about,
Mhm,
right? You don't think about things you don't want in your life. And now we all have negative thoughts. It's just it's human nature. But
mhm,
you have to know what to do when that thought arrives, right? When you realize that those negative thoughts show up in your life physically, you're really careful about what you think about because it happens. People talk about manifestation all the time. Don't be confused. You can manifest negative things.
mhm.
So be mindful of what you think and shift that mindset as best you can. And there's a ton of tools that we can talk about, but
Yeah, and
yeah,
we'll get to that because 'cause we'll make sure,
yeah,
but, like, I think it's important to help people to identify it because this is the way they've always thought,
hmm,
or it's normalized in their culture, their environment, wherever they are, and so even when you were talking about the kids and we're telling them how they're beautiful, they're smart, they're all these things, we could say that, but if that child doesn't believe it and really that belief is locked in that they are unlovable or whatever the thing is, that becomes a really big challenge. And if no one's working with them to positively reinforce them, it can take a long time or they have to get out of that environment where they can say, "Oh no, I am these things." And once you're separated or you're in an environment where you can be nourished and just like where it's safe and to come
Mhm.
out of survival mode. And also I think adults are intentional about doing that because I think sometimes the adults are the people who didn't get it. And so they're trying to do better and do more for the next generation so that they
Mhm.
can have it because they know the power of it and they might feel like it's too late for me, but it's not too late for them. And honestly, it's not too late for anybody. You could be 68 and have a completely different life the rest of your time on this earth, should you so
Absolutely.
choose. And what you're saying about just like the words and what you become like in manifesting it, when really it's imagination, right? Like we were given imagination for a reason. Anything that
Mhm.
you can see and hear can be. And I think what happens and what slows us down is that we get bogged down by the how rather than just moving in that direction. But like, think about when someone people call them stubborn, or they're like, once they get their mind made up, there's nothing you could tell them. Hello. Like, it's the same thing
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we can power it. But I think so many people are stuck in whatever version of survival mode they're in that they don't recognize that life isn't happening to and that they can actually create it. And I've recently been exposed to this quote by Dr. Tony Roach that I'm like, this is it. Like this is it. And if you don't know him, I think you're gonna really like this one. It goes, what you see is what you say. What you say is what you sow.
Absolutely.
What you sow is what you reap. What you reap is what you become. What you become or was what you are. What you are is what you get. What you get is what you give. No, what you give is what you get. And what you get is what you deserve.
I
And it
love that.
starts all over. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good because it really does speak to that and taking ownership of your experience because what has happened from the moment we allowed somebody to drop that negative thought in, that doubt, and we believe it, we don't even know that we really just became passive rather than active because we said, I'm going to take on your doubt and fear and release my goal or that dream, that vision, that whatever that was put inside of me.
Yeah. I agree with
Yeah.
that.
So, how do you interrupt those patterns before they take over?
So I think, well, I know that you interrupt them by recognizing that you're having it, right? So you recognize that you're having that negative thought. And so once you recognize that you have, and that's a lot of times we think so frequently about so many different things and we have so many thoughts that, one of the tools I use is the SOS method, but in that method, there's called the O stands for observe. And so
Mhm.
what I find is that people will have let's say a negative thought. And what we don't do when we have thoughts, we never observe what that thought is, or we never think about what that thought is. And we never observe how it's making us feel,
Mhm.
right? So we have these thoughts. There's a physical feeling connected to every thought that we have. So when
Mhm.
you have a negative thought and you catch yourself in the act of the negative thought, when you catch yourself, observe what it's making you feel because that thought, and you can do the same thing for those really good thoughts, right? It really helps. But when you have the negative thought, observe what it's making you feel. When you observe what it's making you feel and you don't feel good about it, um, and it makes you feel small or it makes you
Mhm.
feel unloved or something, whatever that thing is.
Mhm.
And when it makes you feel that way, you know you don't want to feel that feeling again. So you try to move on to something that's a bit more positive. Now, it's hard when you're used to people talking down to you or, having these negative or creating these negative environments for you. But when that happens, um, you just have to find a way to get yourself back to the point where you can say, you know what, that's not this. I'm going to move on. But
Mhm.
it's one thing that we don't do that's super important that I just mentioned is observing how those thoughts are making us feel. You have to take an assessment, do a body scan of what those things are making you feel because it makes you feel something. Think about all the good in your life, and I guarantee you'll feel something in your body. You will. Think about people you've loved that have passed on, right? Those experiences. But we have to do the same thing in the moment and observe what those things are making us feel. those feelings are making us feel.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. And people don't realize the same way you can think yourself into mm, just depression, anxiety, negative things, you can think yourself into the good things, but we're told, don't get your hopes up. I
Exactly.
I just wanted to make sure you knew. Yeah, I didn't want to make it seem like I didn't tell you when it's really like you think you're keeping me safe when really you're weighing me down.
How you know what? When you say that, I think about I'm not a parent, but I think about
Mhm.
parents. I have nieces and nephews. I see
Mhm.
it. Our experiences shape those little ones, right? So when we think about the things that we fear or things that our parents told us, don't go do that because of this, that, or the other. Um, we do the same thing with those little ones,
Yeah,
with
and it
those
really
children.
depends on what it is, and we
Yeah,
almost make it that my experience, this my negative experience is the only experience that can come from this. When you might be the one who's come 1, 2 generations later to push through.
yeah,
The limiting
yeah.
beliefs that like so that also can tell you too how deeply embedded the negative self-talk is, the NST is, the like doubt. Have you ever heard about this study that they did or experiment they did with monkeys where they would start with like 3 or 4 monkeys in there, and they'd have a pole or something, and at the top there'd be bananas, but it was open. And what they didn't know, so a monkey, they would go up there, but then they get squirted with water. They get sprayed with water, and then they run back down. And so they would keep going up, and they kept getting squirted. So then they kind of stopped, and so then they would rotate out some of the monkeys, but then like leave 1 or 2, right? I don't know the exact number, and then the new one would automatically want to go up because that's banana. That's their natural food source. And guess what? Over time, as they kept rotating them, the monkeys completely stopped
Mm,
because they would stop them from going, where then eventually it got to the point that they would no longer do it, which speaks to how within generations, because each of those rotations, I look at that as a generation. So then now you have generations that don't even know why they don't go up there and get the food. And they might be sitting down there hungry, but 4 or 5 generations ago, and then they will like hurt you to prevent you from getting hurt, pull you,
yeah.
drag you so you don't go up there and be squirted by the water when it's the thing that's natural for you.
Wow, that's
I don't
good.
think human behavior is
That's
too
good.
much different from that because we don't even know the whys. It's behavioral. And then we take it as like it's fact or like it's gospel. If you do this, this will happen. But also, it's a little bit of water. And if they don't mind being squirted by water, let them go get the bananas and everybody can eat.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. Maybe that's just how I think.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And I'll say one last thing before we move forward about like the thoughts. You're right about observing the thoughts. Thoughts are not facts. And we don't take hold of them. We just let them run rampant instead of being like, yo, that's wild. That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even align with what I see, what I know. And we don't remind ourselves of those things.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, we can work on, so say someone is working on cultivating this new mindset that's more abundant and less focused on lack, right? But then life starts lifing, right? So, what does it take to like build that mindset or maintain that mindset under pressure so that they don't return to like those old or negative behaviors?
Yeah, so I think life is gonna happen regardless. So there are these things that I like to do, or I'll do talks on these things, but there are, for example, if you're settled somewhere, like if you're at home or and you have the time to do this thing, I call this thing, 4 steps to kind of killing negative self-talk, right? And so that first step is going to be, we talked about this earlier, catching yourself in the act. What is that thing? And we need to stop it, right? And then once we have that thing, we need to write it down. So get pen to paper, pencil to paper,
Hmm.
get our notes on our phone, and we need to free write. A lot of people haven't done free writing since elementary,
Yep.
right? So you free write, and free writing is, you're not thinking about, punctuation or spelling. You're just writing all those negative things down. What a lot of times we're trained to do is, let me call my strong friend and let me just tell them, let me unload on them,
Yep.
right? Let me
Yep.
unload on my strong friend. But instead of doing that, write everything you're feeling down,
Mhm.
because the same way you're telling your strong friend those things, you get that same relief a lot of times, unless you're looking for some feedback, right? And then that third thing would be to challenge every assumption, like you mentioned earlier. Challenge every assumption. When
Mhm.
you say to yourself, I'm a failure, well, according to who? I'm not successful well, whose idea of success are you using? Have you
Mhm.
defined success for yourself? And then lastly will be to rewrite, and you're going to repeat that for 60 seconds. So you're going to rewrite the positive things and you're going to repeat that 60 seconds. You remember, like, when you see The Simpsons come on, you see Bart writing 100 times, I will not do this thing again.
Yeah.
Well, why did teachers in the past have us do that?
I never thought about that. That's definitely like a way to reprogram because it's in your
Have
head.
to.
And
You
people
have
just
to
thought
be
it was punishment. But also, what I don't like about that is that it wasn't an action statement of what they will do, which it
very true.
doesn't necessarily stop it. And they would do it, but they also didn't believe it. They were just writing it because they had to. When if they had wrote I will blah 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 blah, I wonder how much more of a difference that would have had.
I agree. And then also
Mhm.
getting yourself in front of the mirror and maybe saying those things too, because
Yes.
some of us can't even look ourselves in the mirror,
Mhm.
right? Let alone say something good about ourselves.
Mhm.
Right? So I think, again, if we're settled, those 4 steps those are some things that you can do, and I try to tell people, do it at least once a
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Do it at least once a day. And something I like to do, just if I'm in a rush in between meetings, because meetings that could have been an email, like, I
Mhm.
don't feel like doing all this, right? Like, so again, in between whatever it is, in traffic,
Yeah.
something I like to do called the SOS method. And again, that first thing is similar to those 4 steps. And the first thing is to stop.
Yeah.
Mentally tell yourself to stop, or even better, physically tell yourself to stop,
Mhm.
right? And stop that negative thought. Immediately stop it. And then we go to that second thing, which is the O, and that's the observe.
Mhm.
Again, do a body scan, observe what those thoughts are making you feel. And then lastly, you're going to shift again your cognitive mind, your behavioral mind, or your emotional mind to something positive. It's hard to do, but with work, you can definitely do it. Right. So the SOS method is something you use. You kind of use that, as you're moving around, but those are simple things. You just have to be willing to change. And you mentioned this earlier, but you're reprogramming your mind. Everything that we knew about how we do things, we almost have to forget it and reprogram our brains. Again, your subconscious mind is there to protect us, but it doesn't know what's real or fake.
Yep. And it can be it can keep us stuck trying to protect
Hmm.
us. Um,
Hmm.
this is so good. So many good things are coming up in here and different thoughts. So, I do this thing exactly similar to what you do with like the SOS. I have clients write the things down, or we'll get to what those core beliefs are because there's always
Mm.
something underneath that, right? And then they don't know. Then I say, now share it out loud or read it out loud. And they're like, to say this out loud. And I was like, well, how did it feel to say this? Right? Because this is the feeling you're
Mm.
allowing to just run rampant inside of you. But
Mm.
also, then sometimes they're embarrassed that they even think this and they really know it's not true. And of course, we process through it, replace it with something positive. And I was just thinking about what you're saying. And if it's hard for a person to say all the good things, because they can run down the negative, but then they struggle to write like 3 pieces of evidence or 3 facts that refute that negative
Yeah,
thought. They
yeah,
struggle with that, right? And so I help them get through it. And I'm like, this shows the work that we have to do to normalize you speaking more positively about yourself. But I was also thinking if they could say it the one time, it could also be good to record it because you can listen to it over and over again and
yeah,
let things sink in. And then finally, when you were talking about the grace earlier, this other thing that I love to do is when people struggle with grace and self compassion, is take a photo of you when you were young, like the before whatever happened. So there's like this photo, there's a couple of them of me, but there's this one photo, it's me and my brother. Bless Kevin Hart. His head looks so big in this photo, but my cute man's head looks so big. But I think it's because he had a little afro and I'm just smiling the biggest smile, right? And you take that photo of you, your version of that, whatever that is, and try saying those things to that person. You can't. You can't, because that's the version of you that you're likely still trying to protect. And
Mm,
what I try to do, encourage them to do if they're in this space is to write a letter to that version of you and tell them what they need and like
mm,
and know that you can let them lead because now you're adult you, right? You can protect them. And so it's okay to let them out. And when it's safe, then you can come, come forward with that. But like to
I
allow
love that.
to allow the true you to come out, but no, now you can protect him or her. They're not just like a child who is taught to trust adults and then the adults did something wrong or did something
Mm,
or whatever the thing is to
yeah,
just allow yourself to be you. Man, that's a beautiful thing when that version of you can come out. And I like to, that's a representation of like the God in you, right? Like that light, that candle, because that's what kids are. They're light, they're innocent.
mhm.
Let people see that again.
How do you answer someone saying, "Well, how long is this gonna take?" Right? Because I don't have time. I need this change of mind right now.
So this one I remind them and I'll be like, I'll ask them, "You're how old?" Like, so say they're like a 35-year-old. This is 3.5 decades. This is over a quarter of a century of programming. How
Yeah,
committed are you is the
yeah,
question, right? Like, so are you, because you're grumbling about it, right? Like I can give you a plan. How motivated are you? Like that's what we're gonna
yeah,
focus on because we can
yeah.
do these things, but are you willing to do the work? So if they want to know the time when really it's about their motivation, their
Mhm.
commitment to self. And so like it's what kind of time you on, really is what it is. Like
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
think for them. Like it's
yeah.
how committed are you, but also give yourself the compassion, but you'll see it change. Like I love when a client is highly motivated. Like I had a client, we've been talking about her minding her business so her anxiety can go down. And she went and did stuff literally from this session, next session. She came back, was like, I've been doing this my whole life. I wasn't sure how this was going to work, but she was like, I feel a difference. I want to
Yeah,
do more. Like,
yeah,
and so she's continuing to build on that. So it's really and truly up to a person. And I think it's important to start with lower risk things so that they feel
mm,
comfortable, right? Because that fear, I'll be like, why did I think I could do that when you start too big? But also,
mm.
what are you listening to? What are you listening to? Are you still listening to Sexy Red? That's going to directly go against what it
Yeah, yeah,
is. And
yeah,
no, I'm not saying anything like bad about her because she can get the party started if that's what you want, right? But like, that's not going to feed a mindset shift. And I know I had went through a period of time where I wasn't really listening to music if it wasn't like mantra loops and positive affirmations. It's like music with a good message, not necessarily all gospel, but like things that can help reprogram your mind. And you still got the beats, you can still dance, you can still do all the things. And then I was listening to a song excuse me, and I was like, she got anxiety. I don't remember who it was, and I was like, she's in survival mode still. She's still like she's trying to fight everybody, everything. She's, you know what I mean? Like I can clearly hear what's going on. If they wrote their own stuff, people they'll tell you exactly where they're operating from.
mm.
A lot of these musicians, they can be really easy to manipulate if you're listening to what they're saying or they're putting it out there. Like, what song was it? He was basically talking about flying women out, buying their bags and something like that. And then you wonder, then the same person's going to turn around and say, women only want what they could get. You put it out
Yeah,
there. You're attracting the type who wants that. So before I go too far down the rabbit hole, um, our words absolutely matter. And going back to your question, I would just have the conversation about their commitment. How soon do they want to see change? And then we could put forth a more aggressive plan on how to do that. But they got to be ready to release some things. What are you ready to let
yeah,
go of? Because we got to replace it with something else. Because to just say, don't do it anymore and we don't fill it in, times get rough and they're going to go back to that.
exactly. I
Mhm.
agree. I agree.
Yeah. So this is
That's
a
good.
great segue. So once a person starts to shift, right, they're using the SOS and whatever other skills, and I hope they're going to therapy as well, because that's going to be something else to really accelerate that. So how does one maintain those? Or you can tell us, what do you do to stay consistent um in maintaining your shifts?
I think it's you have to find I believe that if you discipline yourself in one area, it's easier to discipline yourself in other areas.
So how do you
So
define
what
discipline before we go too far?
so I think discipline for me is commitment to yourself.
Okay. Love that.
So that's commitment to yourself. A lot of times we're disciplined based on what we see on social media. I want that. So let me follow those steps to get that. To me, it's my commitment to me. Let me give you an example.
Mhm.
I go to the gym at 5 in the morning. I don't feel like going all the time. I don't want to go sometimes. If I go to sleep at like 11:30, 12 o'clock, and I've been watching TV, I'm like, this is a reason not to go. What I do is once that alarm goes off in the morning, I have a 5-second window. When that alarm goes off, I say to myself, or I say out loud, do you want to change? And then I
Ooh,
respond to myself, yes. And then I get up.
because what you don't change, you choosing. That's good.
Yeah. So I have to, I get a 5-second window. If I don't say this for myself, then I'm not getting up. So I
Mm,
say it, I respond to myself out loud, I say yes, and I get up
yes.
and
It's
I go because that's my commitment to me, right? So that's the discipline for me. When I commit to myself,
mhm,
that's the discipline I need. And so again, discipline isn't taking someone else's path and saying, I'm gonna copy that exact path.
mhm,
Well, you can still get the similar result with what you want for yourself. You have to create your own
mhm.
discipline. It's no different. I've been vegan for over 10 years.
Oh,
It's a
vegan. I was
difficult
like, but I think I'm remembering when you didn't eat pork, and that was over
yeah,
20 years ago.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So before I was vegan, I didn't eat pork or beef for over 20 years.
Mhm,
My last beef I had was a double stack from Wendy's. That was the last beef I had. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. But you decide I think first of all, you have to decide what it is that you want.
mm,
Whatever that thing is. If it's more you want to be more positive, a positive person. If you don't want to have those negative thoughts, you want to be more positive about life and have a positive outlook. Once you know what your end result is,
mm,
you have to then decide what you're going to do to make that thing happen.
yeah.
Right. And so I think that decision is where the discipline starts. That decision to me is your commitment to yourself. What does that look like? And so I would, to answer your question after all that, I would decide my commitment to myself first. What
Mhm.
is that thing? Once I commit myself, then I do the work or whatever that work is. But I have to commit to me and not commit to what you said I should do or you think I should do. So
I also
that's
need really
my
good
thing.
boundaries in there.
Yeah, yeah, that too.
I love that because at first I was like 5 seconds. Ooh, that's a lot. But I also heard that well, what I labeled it as this is your activation question in the morning. What's gonna put that battery in your back in the morning?
Hmm.
And I was like, when you said it and did like the power of speaking it out loud, that's powerful to answer yourself is you talking to you, right? Like it's me versus me every single day.
Hmm.
How like how far we get, how whether we achieve our goals or not. Like, that's good. That's what I'll say. That's good. Wow. So what role do spiritual habits play in reinforcing a healthy thought life?
I think it's everything. I don't think, well, let me stop saying think. I believe it's everything.
There we go.
I believe that my, I start my day with God and I end my day with God.
Mhm.
But I believe that I truly believe two things. God is going to always make a way, always, no matter what. He's going
Mhm.
to always make a way. But I also believe that we're not promised tomorrow. I start every prayer the same way, whether I'm eating, whether I'm about to go to bed. Thank you for allowing me to see a day I've never seen before and a day I'll never see again.
Yep.
I believe that, right? I'll never see this day again. So, can I make the most of this day or this moment? That's important to me.
Mhm.
So, I start everything with that, regardless of what I'm doing. But my conversations with God, I'm in the shower, the Bible app is playing. I'm not listening to music,
I
and
thought I
you
was
know me, I love
the
music.
only one thing.
Yeah, you know I love music.
Yeah.
So, but when I'm in the shower, the Bible app is playing morning and evening
Mhm.
because I need that thing. I mean, I've listened to the Bible a good 100 or more times, right? Because
Ooh,
it's
I'm so
easy.
proud of you
It's easy, right?
to listen.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's easy, but then I'd have to jump out of the shower and highlight something. But, it's one of those things where it's you everything for me is connected to my relationship with God. I attribute a lot of my success to, people that have helped me get there. My mom being an example that I can look to. Um, but also I'm nothing without God.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
It's not this facade. It's not one of those things where I'm thinking this will look good for other people. No, the things are God's. Are
Mhm.
God's. He gave me those things.
Mhm.
Me waking up, it's God. Sometimes it's hard, and when you think about people not getting up or not moving around, and you have to just gratitude is something that has to play out on a daily basis. I'm walking around and I'm like, man, thank God because I could have been where that person is right now. So every moment for me, gratitude plays a huge part of my daily walks, right? Because
Mhm.
my daily walks are with God, but I'm always practicing gratitude because it's important. Because there were moments where I remember you've been talking about this a lot. That survivors, um, how did you word it?
Survival mode. Yeah.
Survival mode, right? So that's something that I'm still trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
Still trying to get rid of that, and it takes consistent work. But it's something that I've had, and you have to constantly battle that thing. Like I have it at bay, but it's still one of those things where I have to call on God in those moments where I become weak in that, like where I don't feel like I'm chasing this thing, but I have to
Mhm.
call on God in that moment. But every day for me is a conversation with God, or if I'm not talking to God, I'm practicing gratitude
Yeah.
because I know I'm not making movement without His word.
Yeah. And really, it sounds like they're one and the same because you're thanking God for the
Yeah.
things that is still conversation with God. You're thanking Him
Hmm.
for provision and vision, protection, and like all the things, like even when
Yeah.
you don't know it. And something you said just when you were just talking about that, like, thank you for this day I've never seen before. It makes me want to go back towards the top of the podcast where we were talking about self-sabotage and like fear, right? And how that stops people from doing things. And I think people forget that there is more data that suggests that they'll do well than not, right? And that they've already done so many things they've never done before. It's just that this one they have the doubt. You every day we wake up, it's a brand new day. The first day you went to kindergarten, that was the first day you went there, the first time you made a friend, right? Like we take for granted all of those little things that are data points that suggest that we cannot fail and that we have been successful in navigating the unknown. It's just that it's because we've seen everybody else do it, or there's enough evidence that has shown that people can do it. And some of us are meant to be exceptional, and that's just what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But when you're looking for others, and to anybody listening, if there is nobody in your life that understands what you're talking about, you're not supposed to be talking to them about it.
Mm,
And that
that's a fact.
like that's between you and God. God gave that to you. He's telling you he has higher for you. It doesn't mean that you're better than anyone else. It just means that you're different and he has you on a different assignment. And he will take you away from or allow people to let them lose you. Because a lot of times we're trying to hold on to people and they don't really have it to go into the spaces and places. They don't have the vision. Ooh, have you seen it's I don't know what year it was, but TD Jakes was on Oprah when Oprah was still doing her show. And he talked
Mhm.
about the turtle and the giraffe.
Oh, yeah.
And basically, you can only eat on the level of your vision. And to put it short for our audience, since you're also familiar, is that like A turtle sees the world the way the turtle sees it, and there's nothing wrong with it, and they got that, they master it. And a giraffe, they see the world, they see the treetops, they see different things, and they can't understand turtle things. Now they can swoop their head down there for a little bit, but a giraffe has a really big heart that has to pump so much blood up there that if they keep their head down there too long, they can literally die.
Mm,
So I'm saying that to say to the people who are giraffes who are giving treetop vision versus grass level vision, both are equally important. You have to understand where you are and have respect for both and not talk crazy to the giraffe. I mean, to the turtle, and the turtle don't talk
yeah,
crazy to the giraffe because both have a purpose and both are valid, but also know you can't expect turtles to really get giraffe things and giraffes to get turtle.
yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And I also want to share a scripture that I think is good for this. Is Second Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a one of power, love, and a sound mind. So if you're questioning who you are, can you do it? You absolutely can, because God did not give you a spirit of fear. So right there, that tells you that's not God. That's the enemy. And I'm not calling the person that might be saying it to you an enemy as much as he might have crept up in them and is trying to stop you, right?
For
Spiritual
sure.
warfare, but power, love, and of sound mind. And then this also brings me to another point. I'm like, it's flowing, it's flowing. Myron Golden. I've been seeing him pop up in my social media a lot more recently. And so I've started consuming more of his material. And so he was just saying, like, in the first few verses of the Bible, it really unlocks how we're supposed to live. Simple. One, we're supposed to create because we made in God's image. So in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. So we're creatives too, right? But then when you get to verse 3 in Genesis, and this was one that like I started to focus on, the create thing was dope. But then it gets to the mindset and protecting the mindset and understanding that the power of our words is, you know, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
Mm,
Now that seems so simple when you don't understand whose you are. You're made in his image. God spoke it. It was. That ain't manifesting. That's an
mhm.
authority you are given as a child of God to speak it and it will become so. Now we're not actually God. So it might take a little bit longer, but what we say is what happens. We have it. Every single person right now listening, watching, speak it, and it will be so. And of course, it has to be aligned with God's will. But
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
manifest some negative stuff, like you said.
Yeah, I think you have to visualize clearly,
Yes.
precisely, and
Yes.
frequently, and it will manifest itself into reality. You just have
Yeah.
to do it. We talk about visualization, but that's just faith.
Mhm.
That's it. You
Yeah.
visualize something, you have the faith to you have the faith to get there. One thing I was talking to somebody recently about is that when they talked about I feel like I have this gift from God,
Mhm.
that I can see the end result of
Okay.
something before I even
Come
get
on.
there. So I can see that there may be, that's why I do so many different things, right?
Yeah.
I can see success at the end of this thing. I don't always know how to get there, but I tell people if you just start to walk in that direction to where you want to go, you'll end up where you're supposed to be.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep.
So instead of being so fearful of, oh, I don't know how to get there, I don't know what to do, I don't know what the first step is, take the step in the direction. God will provide
Yep.
all the directions.
Curiosity goes a long way.
That's it. That's it.
That's so good. Oh, this is so good. Um, Okay. So what would you say are some tips for resetting your mind when maybe there has been a slip or you've kind of fallen off your habits. A couple days have gone by, you've not gotten up at 5 a.m. or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how would you suggest or how do you get back on track?
So I think it goes back to what I said earlier about your commitment to you.
Mhm.
You didn't make your commitment to anybody else but you. When you decided on something, you made that commitment to yourself. I was reading this book by Russell Simmons, and
Clearly you read a lot. I see your
yeah,
library
I
back.
love to read. Love to read. But I was
Yeah.
reading this book by Russell Simmons, and he's vegan, been vegan 50, 40, whatever, long time. And so I was reading it. He said he was traveling one day in his veganism, years into his veganism, and he ate a piece of fish.
Mm,
And he was like, I ate the fish because I wanted the fish at that moment. But he said, then I thought to myself, because I ate that fish, does that mean I'm not a vegan anymore? He said, no, I'm still a vegan. I just ate a piece of fish, but that's still who I am. I
mm,
don't have to, it doesn't make me a non vegan because I ate a piece of fish. I'm still a vegan and I practice those principles, but that could just be life. We commit
mhm.
ourselves to something. If I say to myself, I'm going to go to the gym every morning, and I told you that, there are mornings where I just don't feel like it. I'm not getting up and I'm not going. But I'll say, you know what? Maybe I'll go at night. I won't go
Yeah.
in the morning, but maybe I'll go at night. So you have to make some sort of adjustments, but always think about
Mhm,
that commitment to yourself. If there's a week that's gone by where I haven't, and I just keep using this gym thing, but if I haven't gone to the gym,
mhm,
so what? I just start over. That's my commitment to myself because at the
mhm.
end of the day, when I wake up and say, do you want to change? And I say yes, that still stands.
Yeah.
Your commitment to you has to always stand. And it doesn't matter if a day goes by, a week goes by, come back to yourself, come back to your commitment to yourself, and just keep moving.
Yeah. And that's so good. And I imagine there's somebody listening who hasn't even developed their commitment to self.
Mm,
What
that's very
would you
true.
recommend as a starting point for them?
I guess my thing would be, what do you want for yourself?
Mm,
Do you want, so when you think about, and so I like to start with some people is, so you just get a pen and a paper and you make this T line, and on one side have success, and on the other side you have, in this T line, what we'll do is we'll have on one side, let's say happiness, the
mm,
other side success,
mm.
right?
Oh,
And so the reason that we do that is because we need to define what happiness is for us, not the happiness that our mom told us, our dad, our friends, our loved ones, our significant other. It's not that. It's how you define happiness. On the other side, you define success. What is success to you? Success sometimes are tied to people. Success are tied to sometimes to our children. But you have to define what success is to you, what happiness is to you. Take
mhm,
as long as you need to do that. Once you look at what happiness is to you and what success is to you, and sometimes they overlap. Let me make sure I make
mhm.
that clear. They
Yeah.
do overlap at times. But when you know what happiness is to you and you know how you define happiness, then you can determine what it is that you want for you that'll make you happy, right?
Mm,
I think joy is something we have to choose joy, right?
mhm.
You choose to be happy or you choose happiness at times. And so I think once you define what happiness is to you on that T sheet or T line, um, you can then determine what that commitment to yourself will look like. So when you decide what happiness is to you and you've confirmed that, when you look at your list, you can choose one of those things that make you happy because that's going to be your ultimate thing. And then it's about how you get there. And then once you realize that I'm going to use this thing to get to whatever my happy place is. And then once you look at that, you've also defined what success is, what success means and what success is to you. So I think this example of what to do would be really helpful for someone who has no clue what happiness is for them.
Yeah.
Or even if you might, this is a good example and a task to do with other people. But
Yeah.
define what happiness is to you, define what success is to you, and use that as your point of reference for where you want to be. But also, when you realize where you want to be with happiness, determine what success is for you,
Mhm.
not what society says success is or what anybody else says success is. Determine what success is for you. And then you'll get to the point where you want to be.
And what I also love about that is, like you said, there's overlap. It can show you that they can coexist. A lot of
Hmm.
times we live in a very all or nothing, rigid, black or white world. And that even goes back to like what you said with the example of Russell Simmons. I ate the piece of fish one day, right? Like, and some people are like, oh no, like they put all this pressure. So, what if that was the last thing left? Are you going to die to be vegan when you could eat
Yeah,
fish and be vegan another day? Like, some
absolutely.
people can be really extreme, but that goes back to that grace and that self compassion and like we are taught judgment, even though it says don't judge lest ye be judged, right? Like we stay judging, and a lot of times judgment and negative self talk they go together real bad.
Yeah,
And what you hear people say to other folks, just imagine their self talk is on a whole other level because this is what they're comfortable saying out loud. That tells you there's not a
mm,
war going on the inside. Yeah.
yeah, for sure,
Well, that's good, and I
definitely,
love that you, like,
definitely.
brought that up, like, on the spot. Listen,
Yeah,
uh, last I checked, you weren't trained in mental health or counseling, but you been coming
no,
through with the things today.
but I've done the work on myself,
Okay,
and I don't believe in being an information hoarder, so I share everything I know.
okay.
And so what I like to tell people is, yeah, I'm formally educated, but I learned way more in the streets through
Mhm,
experience and
mhm,
also with being an autodidact. And for people that don't know what that means, it's a self-taught learner.
mhm,
So you think I read a lot, I learn things on my own, but I believe it's important to share information and I don't hold anything back.
mhm.
But I've done a ton of work on myself, but I also did and continue to do therapy because it's huge. It's a huge part of my life. And so I want to make sure at every level of life that I learn something, that I'm a voice to someone else so they can get it. Don't be an information hoarder.
'Cause that's what we're here for. Like, our gifts are not for us. Everything that
Mhm.
God gives each and every one of us, we're supposed to put out. And if you're experiencing any type of resistance, hesitation, understand that spiritual warfare and that Satan is just doing his job.
Mhm.
But also know
Mhm.
that you already have the victory because Jesus went up on the cross. Jesus won. But where Satan
Definitely.
comes in is that if he can trick you, if you don't understand your identity, that's where he can come in and get you to hang out with him for however long until you wake up, if you wake up. So, anybody
Mhm.
listening, you on the rise, you're in the right place. And so we want to make sure that you're getting what you need so that you can thrive. So
For
then,
sure.
and how do you show yourself grace without falling into excuses or falling into judgment? Like excuses aside, because that's kind of like a judgmental question. So, how can you
Mhm.
show yourself grace without judgment?
One, knowing that we're not perfect and in God's eyes, we're not supposed to be. And he knows we're not. He
Yeah.
knows we're not perfect.
He doesn't want us to be.
That's exactly, and that's where the grace comes in, right? If God knows that we're not supposed to be perfect and he's the only perfect person or perfect being, then we have to do what's best for us, next to best,
Mhm,
right? And so that's doing our best to be godlike, and that's hard for all of us. None of us are perfect. You see people every day who are people of God who struggle, right? And
mhm,
so we're not perfect, and knowing that we're not perfect, we just have to do our part to get to where we're supposed to be in God's eyes. He wants us to be in his word.
mhm.
He wants us to share what we know. He wants us to bring people to him. And I believe that you don't have to be a pastor or you don't have to be necessarily in the church to bring people to Christ.
Absolutely.
That's it. Because knowing for me, I guess I know that um because we're not supposed to be perfect, that's not my intentions.
Mhm,
My intentions are to bring the glory to God in my work, in my dealings with people.
mhm.
Am I kind? Am I compassionate? Do I offer a helping hand when needed?
Yeah.
And, I'm getting to the point now where I'm the survivors thing that we experience all the time, even for me, where I'm getting to a point where I'm allowing people to help me
Mhm,
because I feel like I'm the strong friend. I need to be there for other people and allow myself to be a vessel for others. And this is a little bit off, but what I explained to some people is that our life is like a sponge,
mm,
right? When people are unloading on us, it's just filling up. And unless we find a moment or a place to decompress, we're carrying around everybody's stuff. And so I'm really good with decompressing, but at the same time, I have to allow help. I believe that if you don't allow people to help you in multiple ways, you're blocking their blessings. So I'm mindful of that because
Mhm.
God told me to come and help you, and you said no. And I'm like, okay, now what? What am I supposed to do?
Oh, I'm about to do this.
So we're blocking our blessings, but I'm just mindful daily that I'm not supposed to be perfect. I have to do what God has sent me here to do. Um, my purpose is to help people,
Mhm.
and whatever way I can do that, I'm gonna just gonna always do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. And God doesn't want us to do any of these things without him. He doesn't.
Yeah.
That's the other part about it. So we don't need to be perfect. He allows for weakness. He allows for struggle because it means we need him.
Mhm.
This is the only codependent relationship I'm ever going to recommend for anybody, and that is with God because like he does it. Like and as I continue to grow more and more spiritually, like I really think about I can understand the Bible in a way that I didn't before, right? Like and that's because I also invited God in and I asked God to like help me with
Yeah.
it. And it makes me think about the Tower of Babel, right? Like they were doing it. They
Mm.
was trying to get to heaven and get like God. And God said, oh no, 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 no. And for
Yeah.
once, God created confusion. Because if they got it and it was too well, what would they need him for? What would they have needed God for? So I get it sometimes too when people have questions about things and it's like it's all really and truly about God. And our own ambition sometimes can get in the way of that, and we really just need to let him work on us, and if we don't understand, like, our struggles or the resistance we're experiencing, like, we have to talk to him. He creates situations that make you come to him, and some
Mhm.
people still won't, and you can
Yeah, because
see
we
it.
want to do it on our own. We don't think we need God. Well, he gives us free will, but he wants to be a part of the process.
Yes, and I think there's this thing of hyper independence that we're taught and that we learn in
For sure.
survival mode. I'm telling y'all
For
from my
sure.
lived experience, right?
For
I've
sure.
learned in survival mode that I had to do. I had to do it because my mama wasn't going to do it. My daddy wasn't going to do it, right? And so my aunt was very much raising me and my brother to be able to take care of ourselves because there was no guarantee that the parental figures were going to get it together. And so that turned into go hustle, make it happen. A lot of what you said, all the things I said I wasn't going to be, and education was how I was going to do it, and all of that. And so I got to a point a little over a year ago, and I was completely tapped, completely and utterly exhausted. And I was crying in my whole therapy session. And I
Mm.
told the therapist I was working with at that time, I said, I used to pride myself on surviving. I'm tired. I am ready to thrive. I didn't know what I had set in motion with my words because I was just
Mhm.
expressing to her, and it wasn't an intentional thing like me talking to God. But I also happened to literally be doing my therapy session in the church on a
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so when I tell you things started shaking and shifting, this was in June last year in 2024. Like I'm like, Lord, what year is it? And things just really started shaking, but it was like it used to be a good thing. It used to serve me until it didn't anymore.
Mhm.
And so I think we all can evolve. So even though you might have things that have helped you, that have served you, like what you said, chasing success, it has served you. Sometimes we have to examine, is it time to set that aside, right? And then either really get in relationship with God. Like obviously I did things with God, or I'd make up my mind and then I'd ask him and I shifted to what do you want me to do? What is the next step? You're giving me all of these ideas. What do I do 1st?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember my first therapy session maybe 4 years ago. One of the first things he said to me was, "What got you here won't get you there." Right? What got
So
you here
simple.
won't get you there.
Yeah.
So those coping mechanisms, right? So you think about like I was always a person that, smile. I don't want people to know. I don't want people asking me, what's wrong. So I
Mm,
give them the impression that things are fine. But when things are bad and people aren't asking you what's wrong, you're like, hold on a minute. I can't keep doing this to myself.
mhm.
So that's true. What got you here won't get you there, and that's something that and that I got the book too. So
Oh,
something I'll
okay.
never forget.
And then
Yeah, I got the book.
also what that made me thought of when it gets really bad and you're the sponge, you dry up and curl up.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Okay. All right. Let me
Yeah.
see. Because I'm like, clearly we can keep on talking. This is good conversation here. So, ooh, what do you do when you're growing, but you're not seeing results? What do you do when you're growing, but you don't see the results yet?
I think you just have to. Well, let me stop saying thank you. I believe, and what I do is I keep going because the end result, again, when I'm walking on that path, I know that I'm going to fall into where I'm supposed to be. I
Mhm.
know that already. And I keep my faith in God, right? We want to see life today,
Mhm.
social media, all these other things. We look at it and we want success or whatever that thing is to be instantaneous. It's not like that.
Mhm.
Like we want to achieve success. We see the true overnight successes and we're like, God, you see it all the time. Why aren't you doing this for me? We see it all the time.
Mhm.
God, I see what you're doing for them. Do it for me. Why aren't you doing it for me? We see that all the time. But your path is not their path, and how they got it might not be how you want to get it.
Hello. Everybody is not aligned with God.
Exactly. And so I make sure that I stay faithful, even when it's hard, even when you feel like you've been running your race and somebody got there first and it was supposed to be me.
Mhm.
Right? We work, think about corporate America happens all the time, right? That promotion was supposed to be mine. I've worked hard, I've done this and I've done that, but then somebody else gets it. I believe nothing happens by happenstance.
Mhm.
Everything is supposed to be what it is. I believe in timing. Your time will come. I
Nobody
tell people
can
this
be
all the
stopped.
time. Very true. I tell people this all the time. Be prepared for your moment. Because if you're not prepared for your moment, because sometimes people will just give up and they'll say, they got it, I'm done.
Mhm.
When your time comes and it's your moment, will you be prepared? Are you prepared for your moment? Because sometimes people get to their moment and they're unprepared and it shows. So have faith. Believe that the path that you're walking on is where God wants you to be. And if it's not, He's going to redirect you.
Mhm.
He's going to redirect you, but you have to be open to that
Yeah.
and be prepared for your moment. That's important because timing is everything and our time will come.
Mhm.
It may not be tomorrow, maybe next week, but it will come. And are you prepared? That's how I look at life.
That's so good. You basically just spoke Galatians 6:9. Which is, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give
Yes.
up, right? And that
Yes.
unseen part, like that represents that like a seed in the ground and like a harvest. We understand that all these plants, these fruits and vegetables and flowers, they all have a season. They have their time when they bloom and some rebloom over and over again, but we don't apply that to ourselves and we think we need to see it right away. And also,
Mm,
like that overnight that we see is somebody's 20 plus years or
absolutely.
however long we just saw the one night, even though it's been like your life literally can change overnight, but it took 20 years or however long to get to that. And then I also want to remind people giving up costs way more than staying committed, than staying faithful. And if you don't get that thing, it wasn't yours. And a lot of times people have difficulty accepting, releasing their desires and their wills for what God has for them. Because then that person gets that position and then some crazy stuff go down and that position gets cut. And you're like, dang, I
Yeah.
could have stayed in the company because you're moving
Yeah. Yeah.
off of emotion and you don't, that's when you go talk to God. God, I thought this was my time. Help me understand why. What do you have for me? Like, what would you like me to do? What are you teaching me? Because everything is preparation. Nothing goes wasted. And as Quandra said on one of the previous episodes, everything is spiritual compost.
Yeah. Yeah.
God
Yeah.
will take what you think is dirt and he's going to turn it into soil. And what if God had it to give you a business. He had to get you out of that job, not get you that promotion, because now you building somebody else's dream and not the purpose he put inside of you.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
What's for you will not miss you,
It will not.
period.
And I've always been like a positive person, but I had to do a lot of examining of I had some
Mhm.
hidden seeds that were planted and those fruits,
Yeah,
a little bit of negativity. I told someone last year, I was like, I was the most positive pessimist and didn't even
I
know
know
it
a lot of
because
those people.
because I was around so much negativity and I
Yeah,
was more positive than them, I was calling myself an optimist and I wasn't even there yet. So now I'm actually like a positive optimist, like for real. Like
yeah,
and even sometimes little things will try to come up and I'd be like, nope, no, thank you. We're not doing that. That ain't true. Like, and I believe very much in practicing what I promote with my clients just because it's huge. And then not only do I get to witness their growth, they get to witness mine. They see my evolution on the other side of the
yeah,
screen. Cause I do have some people who've
yeah,
been working with me for years. And so I think there's a mutual thing. And I get inspired all the time by their growth. And I'm like, oh, it's time for me to level up. That was some real good
yeah,
advice you gave. You need to
yeah,
do the same.
yeah.
Or you would benefit from that practice that you're telling them. So then what does having faith in the process look like to you?
You know what? It's having faith in the process to me is enjoying that process.
Yeah.
We've been, and I'm sure you may have experienced this too, on your journey to your success. Well, at least until this point, because
Right. Cause I
I'm
was
sure
like, I don't even feel
there's
like
gonna,
I fully
yeah, there's,
arrived.
well, there's gonna be more. We know
Yeah,
God is gonna bring more. There's more blessings coming. But to this
absolutely.
point, um, there are things where you just rushed to get here. You did
Mm,
everything you thought was the right thing to do, and you missed the process. I can't even remember. I remember things, but I don't know what it felt like. I just know I arrived at certain
mhm.
points. I felt like God at sometimes he just planted me from one place and then put me somewhere else, but I do know that there was a process.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was meant for me to miss that journey, but I never forget what I've gone through. I think even though I missed part of my journey and how I arrived there, how I grew up
Mm,
is what keeps me grounded.
yeah.
I never forget that.
You
So
can.
when I arrive to certain places, I'm sharing my experience and I may not have really celebrated that moment in that journey, but I remember what it felt like to not have as a child,
Yeah.
right? And so I know that I want to share so much more, but I think for me it's important to, and I'm being more conscious of this now as you're going along and you're doing certain things, you're appreciating the moment, you're
Mhm.
in the moment, you are enjoying the process because you want to make sure that process, one, it's something that you can speak to later, but you're feeling what you're experiencing. It's more
Mhm.
than just feeling a thought. You have to
Mhm.
feel your experiences because if you don't feel those experiences, you're a person, you're a shell of yourself.
Mhm.
Right? You're just a shell of yourself. And that's why I think so many people get whatever their ultimate success is, and then they're not happy. They're unhappy about so many different things.
Yeah. They still feel
They
empty.
got where they want to be. You're a shell of yourself, but you never really felt your experience or your journey. Um, and that's my thought. I think
Yeah.
that's important.
That's good. That's good because we have to pour into ourselves, and we think sometimes, "Mm, I got time for that. I gotta go. I gotta get it. I gotta grind. I gotta hustle." And then, yeah, you get there and you literally have everything and you feel empty. And you haven't cultivated the healthy habits, the spiritual habits. And then what are you going to do? You're going to cope, and it's likely not going to be healthy. And then, depending on who you're allowing into your life, it could get real messy. And then you're like,
Mm,
how did I get here?
yeah, yeah,
But sometimes you did it on your own ish. Or God did allow, God allowed you to do things and he'll let you, right? We have free will. But and that's when he probably has done that. You've accumulated everything. So there's nothing left but to really and truly try God. Try Jesus.
yeah.
So, all right. So we have come to the part of the show where we are going to do the signature question. If you could leave
Okay.
the audience with one powerful truth to help them to rise in faith and thrive in purpose, what would it be?
What I would say is your feet won't go where your mind hasn't already been. Your feet won't go where your mind hasn't already been. So again, we have to visualize where we want to be clearly, precisely, frequently, and often. Because if we haven't seen it, you won't arrive to where you want to be. That's it.
That's so good. I had to be quiet because I was like, I don't want to disrupt you, but I was like, oh, he going off. Like, it's so good. So good. Like, y'all, I just really want to encourage y'all that this thing is not that difficult. And what I mean is that, like, you have to give yourself permission to think, to believe, to like unlock it. And when you give yourself permission, like, you have nothing to lose but purpose to gain, right? Like, if
Mm,
you allow yourself, if you really let it unlock. So, just like listen to what he said, allow your mind, tap back into that imagination, forget what they told you about daydreaming. We don't want you to daydream. We want you to imagine and then we want you to go. Then we want your feet to move, right? So the
yeah.
vision is what is your GPS. The vision is your GPS, and that's going to guide everything that you do. All
Hmm.
right. Thank you, Edward. That was
You're
so
welcome.
good. Oh, this is good. I feel like I've been talking to me. But, like, in a good way, and to hear,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
a different perspective because, I'm the strong friend, I'm usually the one pouring into people, so to hear other positivity, so it's always important when I can have conversations with people who think in a similar way, and then I can just hear how other people think about it, so I leave fed as
Yeah.
well, so
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, so audience, now we're transitioning to you. I want you to reflect. What is one mindset, habit, or belief that you've used to avoid your growth? Then we want you to take action. Name the war that you are ready to win and commit to at least one action this week that can help you reclaim your peace and power so that you can walk in your God given authority and purpose. And then finally, I want to affirm you. I will not sabotage my breakthrough. I have the mind of Christ. My thoughts are aligned, my habits are consistent, and I am no longer at war with my own becoming. So I want to thank you all again for tuning in for another episode of Rise and Thrive with Dr. J. Nicole, and want to give some love to my special guest today, Mr. Edward Griffin. Thank you for
Thank you
spending
for
time
having
with
me.
us.
Yeah. Anytime. I'd love to come back.
Okay, well, listen, we can make that happen because we
Yeah.
were talking about multiple topics. So yeah, we gonna have to have
Yeah.
you back, and we can maybe be strategic about what we'll talk offline. We'll talk
Okay.
offline. All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all. We'll see you again next Tuesday. If you are in the DC area, I invite you to join me at Life Surge. It is going to be a wonderful day where they're discussing how to fuel your kingdom purpose. There's going to be information down below in the description with the promo code so that you can get a discount and come and join in this kingdom experience with me. Also, the merch is available online so you can wear your faith, wear your rise, wear your thrive. And thank you again, Edward, for joining me today. And we will see you
Thank
all
you.
next week.